Guys, welcome back to the Creative Corner and to Details and Diamonds. We're gonna record this video. I recorded it once, didn't like how it turned out, decided to do it again. Mostly because I realized I kind of screwed up what we were talking about in this book. So today we are talking about my book, Truth Be Told. It does not look like this. It is no longer part of this series. Its series is called Web of Lies, and we're gonna diamond paint while we talk about it. The cover has changed to fit with YA types and to appeal to the YA audience. As I had talked about this in my last recording of this, I realized that I mixed up the plot of two books because um, they were the same book at one point. I'm just double checking a couple things. So they were the same book. They were together, the third book, and this one, it was a duology, not a trilogy. And then when I was recording this the first time, I realized that I screwed up and talked about the third book along with this one, which was not the plan because this is a different book, but I had split it in half and I forgot. So re-recording, and we're gonna do some diamond painting when we talk about it. Can you see this? Can you see this? Okay. All right. We are kind of going to be everywhere in the way of diamonds today. I'm not really doing it in any particular order, but we are going to start with A because I decided to redo this video. So, Truth Be Told is the second book in my series Web of Lies. It is one of my earlier published books, therefore it does not have the same writing style as my more modern ones. That being said, I would still like to see y'all pick it up and read it. I am going to continue this series. I've decided that Matt needs to have his happy ending because this series does not end with a happy ending, and I don't think it's fair to him. And so this book in particular follows White Lies by a couple of months, not very long. It starts off with Eliza. She's at the reef, and spoiler alert here, but also not a huge one because it is important to this book's plot, and if you've already read the synopsis for this book, then you already know. So Xander dies in the first one, okay? He dies in White Lies. He sacrifices his life to save Elijah and Matt, alright? In here, it takes place a couple months after his death. Eliza and Matt are at the reef. She is slowly trying to go through Xander's belongings. He was a very good businessman, but he wasn't the most organized individual. And so she's there helping his family sort through this stuff because they're all back in Atlantis, and she doesn't want to put Xander's land life all on Ambrosia, who's dealing with the funeral, his mom, his siblings, his best friend, the council, so much stuff. So she decides that she's gonna go through this anyway. Plus, she's looking for some documents. That's not mentioned, okay? But she actually does this because at this point, she doesn't want Matt to know a couple secrets that her and Xander have. That is revealed later on. She does tell him later on in the story that her and Xander, well, they were married and they never got divorced because it's kind of hard to get a divorce if, you're a immortal creature and you got married 100 years ago. You can't just walk into a courthouse and be like, yo, I want an annulment. That's not how it works for them. And so she is going through all this stuff, and then they are confronted by this creepy little demon-like thing, and they're like, hey, Xander's not really dead. And she's like, what the heck are you talking about? He's dead. I saw him. And they're like, no, he's alive. So she gets told that he's not really dead, and she has to contact the sirens, and she finds out that it's true. Xander is not dead. They don't know how it happened, right? They have absolutely no idea how it happened. They were preparing for his funeral, and then he woke up. And so they think that he engaged in some kind of necromancy, basically, to save himself, but they don't know how he did it. And so they put him on trial, and necromancy is forbidden by the sirens, and it's revealed that Xander is actually the heir to the siren throne. Sirens are primarily female, so males are very, very valued in their society, and if a male is born into the royal lineage, they are required to take the throne. He is the first boy that had been born into his lineage for literally thousands of years, okay? His grandfather was the last male in his lineage. And he didn't want the throne, so his mom took over, and they used the excuse of him being half human to keep him off the throne. But it's been so long, and the council's getting very irritated that he's not on the throne. And this guy named Stavros, who is our main villain in this, our main antagonist in here, is pushing for either him to be completely removed from Siren society, for Xander to be removed and can't take the throne, or for him to have to take the throne. Alright? And the council, who were all present during Xander's past, have watched him grow up, have been friends with his families for thousands of years, decide that what they're gonna do is they're gonna put him on house arrest till they can decide permanently a solution. So they trust Eliza, and they send him to stay with Eliza. Because they're like, all right, we know that Eliza will keep him out of trouble. We know that she'll keep tabs on him. We'll send him to stay with her. And so he goes to land to live with Eliza, and he's escorted there by his sister Ambrosia and his best friend Ares. All right. So while they are there, Xander starts having nightmares of the past, like past events that he forgot existed. And he doesn't understand where they're coming from. He's like, wait, this happened. I know it happened, but I didn't remember that it happened until now. And Demetrius has to tell him that it's his fault. What happened was Demetrius was his trainer when he was younger, because Xander had some magic in him, but he was being part human and part siren. He struggled very, very hard with his animalistic creature nature versus his human soul. And so Demetrius told Heaven he'd keep an eye on him and decided to train him. Well, Demetrius was there when Xander's brother was murdered. And when he was murdered, Xander learned some things that I can't tell you because I'll ruin the story. But he learned some things that was going to make him do some stupid crap. Basically, he was going to go on a suicide mission to kill Stavros, alright? And knowing that he wasn't ready for this, knowing that this wasn't the right time, Demetrius was faced with a problem. He could let Xander do what he wanted to do, or he could stop him from doing it. But by stopping him from doing it, he would be interfering with free will and breaking a law of heaven. Regardless of that, he steps in. Alright? He steps in and he puts a block on Xander's mind, so he cannot remember the stuff that he discovered regarding his brother's death and Stavros and an island, the island of Philander, and basically convinces Xander that he needs to step away from the throne for a while. And he does this with purpose. He wants to make sure that Xander is ready to face this. He doesn't want to risk Xander because he knows that he has a crucial part to play in the world. But he did break the law of free will. So in here we see Demetrius having to face the fact that he could possibly fall from grace because he did break this law, and people are now realizing this because his wards, his protections that he put on Xander's brain are failing him, and things are being revealed. And you can't exactly keep that a secret from Heaven. And so Demetrius has to struggle with that, and Xander is learning all this stuff from his past, and then add on to it, a sister that he didn't know he had shows up at his door. She is a very young siren. All sirens up to this point are about at least 100 years old. It's said that it's rare for them to have kids. Like, they have kids, but it's rare to have a young siren, all right? Xander has hundreds of siblings, but they're all hundreds of years old. Because once a siren goes into maturity, they usually create kids, and then they're done, all right? Because sirens mate only to reproduce, basically. Their gifts are to destroy. They eat humans, so they hunt them, and they use their song to hunt them. But they literally only mate to reproduce. It's not seen as like a pleasure or anything to them. And so Xander is shocked when this girl shows up at his door claiming to be his sister, and she's only 17. And so then he has to reach out to his mom, and she's like, yeah, she is your sister. She's also Stavros' kid, which complicates things a lot because at this point, Xander has a real hatred for Stavros. And so he's very mad, but she's also his sibling, and Xander is above all protective of his siblings. And so he takes her in, he nurses her back to health, finds out that the person who hurt her is her father, and that she is biologically Stavros' daughter, but she's also not Stavros' daughter. It's very complicated. And I can't tell you how that works without revealing a very critical plot point in the story, so I will not be telling you that. But he realizes that um there's been a law at play for a long time, and he has been used by literally all sides. He gets really mad at Demetrius because even though Demetrius tried to protect him, ultimately he ended up playing him and using him like everyone else did. And so Xander comes to the conclusion that he is tired of running. He's tired of not doing what he should have done a long time ago. And he doesn't want the throne. He's made it very apparent that he does not want the throne. But he makes up his mind that because he's tired of being played and he's tired of people playing those he loves, he's going to take this throne. And he is going to cleanse his kingdom from Stavros' influence and fix all this crap that should have been fixed years ago, but now he's mature enough to handle. And that's part of it. Is he's mad at Demetrius because Demetrius stopped him from fixing this when he first found out back in ancient Greece. But had he done it at that time, he would have done it wrong, and he would have ultimately damned his entire kingdom. And so now he's more mature, now he's ready to do it. He understands the consequences. He understands how to go about this in a more not really peaceful way, but a more political way, a more sound way. And so he steps in and decides to do this. He's like, I'm done with this. I'm done with people messing with my family. I'm done with people telling me how to live my life. And he tells Eliza, he's like, I have to go home. I understand that I'm on house arrest and I understand that people are mad at me right now, but I have to go home. I have to fix this. And so he reaches out to the council and he tells them that he will accept his place on the throne if they take him off house arrest and let him come back. And the council, of course, is like, oh heck yes, we don't want to solve this problem of not having you on the throne, so please come back. And so the book basically ends with Xander returning to Atlantia. Atlantia is the kingdom, Atlantis is the city, to accept his role. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, Xander's like, I'll be back, I promise. I just have to go solve this and figure out what I'm gonna do, but then I will. I'll be in contact and I'll reach out to you. And so he leaves, right? And that's not really a spoiler because it all kind of leads up to this. You kind of get a feeling through the whole book that this is the decision he's gonna make as he remembers things, because this book is told through modern times where you see him in the modern world with his friends and his family, and then it's told through his memories of the past. And it's written as if it comes straight out of the historical archives of the Sirens. It has a thing at the beginning that says like certificate of validation, and it's signed by Jacoby, the historian of Atlantia, because each of these books in the trilogy are supposed to be like historical documents. All right, so the first one was from the vampires, this one's from the Sirens. And he decides he has to leave, but meanwhile, while Xander's doing all this, there's more stuff going on that he's unaware of. Caliban, a demon who is working behind the scenes of all this, reaches out to Eliza and says, Yo, the time has come. You either pay up or I destroy literally everyone you love. That is your choice. And so then Eliza is forced to make a choice. And she is terrified that Matt's going to get hurt and Xander's going to get hurt. And so she makes a decision to leave. All right? She leaves. She decides she's got to go. She's got to face Caliban on her own, and she leaves. Matt is struggling in here. He has unlocked a new ability. He is learning who he is as a magical vampire because he's a vampire who has magic, and up until now that was like basically unheard of in their society. And so he's trying to learn that. Demetrius sends his wife and his daughter to the house to help train his wife and his daughters. He has 2 daughters to help train Matt. But Matt isn't really interested in training. He's interested in finding his own way. So he reaches out to Zimmerman because he knows he can trust Zimmerman at this point, and he's like, hey, I need to know more about angels. I need to know more about Caliban. I need to know this. I need to know that. And so Zimmerman and him form a stronger connection in this book too, and they kind of get where in the first book him and Zimmerman aren't exactly friends because Matt helped his adopted daughter, hide from him. In here, Zimmerman and him start forming a respectful thing, and Zimmerman's like, okay, this is a kid. Ultimately, this is a child. And ultimately, my werewolves, specifically Zimmerman, okay, is meant to be a symbol of fatherhood. Zimmerman is an alpha werewolf. He is the leader of his tribe. He comes off really grumpy, really rough at first, but you find out it's literally just because he is trying to protect his family. All right, he loves his family, he doesn't want them hurt, and he is just trying to protect them. He's actually a huge softie for his family. And when he starts taking Matt in under his wing, you kind of get to see this a little bit. He lets Matt into his archives. The werewolves, Zimmerman tells him, were created as a way to stop the vampires because the vampires were created by demons, fallen angels, while the werewolves were created by the angels. And he lets Matt into his archives to do some research on the angels and Caliban and everything concerning what they learn in this book regarding the sirens and demon heritage and stuff that I can't tell you without ruining the plot. And so they start forming a bond through that. And I just completely messed this up. We gotta remove these. I put these on the wrong spot. And so this book is primarily, is that the right one? No. This book is primarily about the truth. The first one, you find out that everyone's been keeping secrets. In this book, you find out that the truth has to come clean at one point or another, and the truth is revealed in here. Everyone's truth is revealed. You find out secrets about literally everyone, all right? And they have to decide how they're going to go about this now. We meet Sky in here, and we meet Arya in here, and Demetrius's wife and other daughter in here. And Xander has to make a massive choice. There is a lot of siren history in this book. This is primarily siren based. So if you love the vampires, they are not, even though Matt is the main character, they are not the focus of this book. This book in particular is focused on Xander and his people. And the reasoning I did that is each of these books is supposed to be the background for another series that I have not written yet called the Coterie Chronicles. And that series focuses on Mat after all of this. This series does not have a happy ending. All right, I'm going to tell you that right now. It does not end in happily ever after. Mat ends in a very bad, very dark place in this series. And these books are the reason that he is the way he is in the next series. It's the reason that he goes from being this innocent vampire fledgling to being this angry vampire who will do literally anything to destroy the demon Caliban. All right? So, I mean, I appreciate it if you pick it up. It's an older book of mine, so it's written differently, and it's very hard for me to explain all of what it's about just because it's a very in-depth book. This was supposed to be 1,000 pages, but then I split it in half, so now it's only like 500. I do try to make it easier on you guys, and in the back of the book, I do include a family tree for Xander so you guys can keep track of a few things because we talk about a lot of his history in here. And then I can include a couple maps and stuff to make it easier for you all. The synopsis that is online for this book is Xander Dorian never asked to be king. He never asked to be born a half-breed with both siren and human traits. He certainly never asked to be shunned by both species, and still expected to adhere to their traditions. After dedicating his life to protecting the kingdom of Atlantia by staying as far from his birthright as possible, Xander thought he'd concocted the perfect plan to disappear from the siren world altogether. With his plan to bring back his dead brother, failed and he was murdered by the slayer Lilla Warner, Atlantia feared she'd lost her rightful king for good. However, the day before Xander's burial, the Sea Prince is mysteriously resurrected and is thrust back into the political unrest he'd spent centuries avoiding. While he learns that there are demons in the court and angels interfering with the world's delicate balance, Xander discovers that the necromancer chasing his beloved vampire Eliza and the never-ending stream of questions from her fledgling are tied to a bigger, earth-shattering plan set in place by a sinister force named Caliban. Xander must face his past and accept his present if he wants to change the future. The fate of the world depends on him. And this is ultimately a story about um, almost coming of age. Like, Xander's 1,000 years old, alright? But it's accepting responsibilities, it's taking up your rightful place in the world, having to decide what your place is in the world, that kind of thing, and preparing to face the consequences of your actions, because at the end of the day, the truth always comes to light, and this is the truth. This is their truth. The first one's a lie, this one's the truth, the third one's the consequence. Alright? And so I would love it if you guys pick it up. I'd love to read your reviews. I think it's sitting at a 4-star rating last time I checked. I don't read my reviews very often unless I'm tagged in them. Mainly because if there are haters, I don't want that to influence my writing. I write what I feel is right for the story. Um, I'm not I'm gonna write what the reader wants kind of person. I'm gonna write what the characters tell me is happening kind of person. And so it's a little different for me, and I don't check my reviews as often, but I'd love to see this book series get a little bit more love, especially since I'm planning on continuing the series with the Coterie Chronicles. The Coterie Chronicles is the next series that's going to follow this. Has not been written yet. It's started several times, but I'm dealing with a much more mature, much more angry Mat in it, and um, some of the themes that I talk about seem too similar, and some of the scenes seem too similar to some scenes in the third book, and so I've gone back and rewritten it several times. I have a cover for it, and I have a name for it. The name is As Luck Would Have It. It follows our pattern of popular sayings, as you can tell. And so the next book is As Luck Would Have It, and they meet someone who's very important and whose last name is Luck. And so, anyway, I would love to see you guys pick this up. I'd love to know your thoughts, and I can't wait to talk about book 3. And yeah, keep your eyes out too, because there is a short story that is connected to this series that is included in an anthology of short stories that I wrote, but I'm going to separate it and make it its own thing and publish it as a short story related to this series so you guys can get it. This book is coming off KU in February, so if you have KU and want to read it, go read it because in a couple weeks it'll be gone. Otherwise, you can grab it at Amazon for a decent price. I try to keep my books at a decent price. All right. I will put the link to the purchase the book in the description section of this video for you guys. And thank you guys for joining with me today for this exploration of Truth Be Told. It's a complicated book, and it's one that I didn't know what it was about for the most of the time that I was writing it. It was a journey for me to write, and um, everyone who's read it that has talked to me personally says they like it. I do know it's complicated. I do know there's a lot of subplots and everything ties in together. And it's a big book, okay? It's a ginormous book. But I love it. It's my baby. So thank you guys for being here in Details and Diamonds. I'm going to finish up this little section of diamonds that we did not get done and upload this video. And then I might go ahead and post the book review today. We'll see. We'll see. I'm working on this. So bye guys. Have a great day. And let me know in the comments if you read this book or if you pick it up because I'd love to know what you guys think. Bye.